Everybody knows the big suppressor brands, but I'm about to show you a company that almost no one has heard of. In my opinion, they're making the best cans on the market today. If you're new to my channel, welcome. My name is Justin Jackson. I'm a former Special Forces Green Beret. I currently run a firearms training company here in southern Idaho called Snake Eater Ranch. We do everything from long gun shooting to pistol and carbine shooting. Throughout my years in the military and even right now in my training company, I've had the opportunity to use a plethora of suppressor companies. And so I'm really excited to share with you guys today the company that I'm going to be talking to you guys about. Before we jump into the content, I just want to say a huge thank you guys. Last week I released a video where I mentioned a goal that by the end of September I wanted to hit 5,000 subscribers. You guys completely crushed that goal. And within like 10 days, we hit that number. So I've had to kind of readjust and make some new goals. So the new goal by the end of September is 7,500 subscribers, okay? And if we hit that number, I'm gonna do a giveaway. I'm not gonna mention to you guys what the products are right now. It's nothing crazy, because I am a pretty small channel, but I do want to just say thank you to you guys for supporting me and for kind of blowing my channel up, relatively speaking. But from the bottom of my heart, thank you guys. I really appreciate it. And let's jump into the suppressor content. So the suppressor company today that we're gonna be talking about is Stealth Additive Works. The reason I mentioned in the intro that you've probably only seen pictures of their company is because they have a very unique suppressor. And the part that you've probably seen is this. I'm trying to get the lighting perfect so you can see all those little holes right there. Real quick, I'll just explain my relationship with this company because I do think that's important when we're talking about brands. So I reached out to these guys early on when I was starting my training company because I saw some of their pictures on Instagram and realized that they were actually relatively local to me. They're an Idaho company as well. When I had less than 500 subscribers on YouTube and I was just getting started with my training company, I reached out to them and said, hey, your guys' products look really interesting. I'd love to come up to your shop sometime and kind of see what you guys have to offer. Here's my background, et cetera, et cetera. Almost immediately, they reached back out to me, said, hey man, we'd love to have you out. Just basically give us a good day and we'd love to show you around and tell you about our products. The reason I mention that is because during this time, I actually reached out to a ton of suppressor companies, pretty much all the major brands, and kind of gave them a similar pitch. Because I'm in the southern Idaho area and right on kind of that Utah border, there's a decent amount of suppressor companies around here. The only one to really get back to me was Stealth Additive Works. Huge shout out to those guys who are up there running the shop. Other than that, I have no connection with them in terms of like a contractual agreement. They didn't send me these suppressors with the hopes of me making a good kind video about their product. They did send me these suppressors as a sponsor to my shooting team when me and one of the guys that helps train with me were competing in sniper competition. We reached out to them, said, hey, we'd love to run some of your products. The competitions we're gonna be going through are pretty tough and rugged, and we're gonna be kind of humping these rifles around, so we'd love to throw your suppressors on. They sent some down for me. I paid for all the tax crap on them, was able to basically put them through 3 months of super heavy use. So the review I'm gonna give you guys isn't just, hey, they sent me these and let me give you some feedback on them. This is 3 months of extreme heavy use on these suppressors. I feel like I'm qualified to give you guys a relatively intriguing opinion on what these suppressors have to offer, as well as the company that you'd be buying from. I also wanted to mention really quick that throughout these 3 months of kind of testing their product and going up and seeing their shop, I have been able to develop a relationship with the guys up there. I cannot say enough good about them. These guys really are the salt of the earth. Every time I reach out to them with questions, with requests, with whatever it might be, it's immediate that these guys get back to me. And I imagine that their customer service for everybody else would be the same because they are a small company. They're trying to grow. They're trying to put out a good product to the people. That being said, I know you guys want to just jump into kind of what the suppressor has to offer, but I got to just say one more thing about this company because I was just super impressed when I went up there and was able to meet with these guys. Now, I've spoke to a decent amount of companies, whether it's guns, optics, even suppressors, about what makes their product different. I was blown away with the innovation that these guys are doing on these suppressors. I think most suppressors in the world are relatively the same, but I think these guys really care about bringing something new to the market and innovating. For lack of a better term, and without trying to, sound like a douche to the guys up there, they're super nerdy about this stuff. I mean, the things they were bringing up and all of the models and models and models of testing that they were like essentially just throwing out or putting on the shelf because this failed. Like, they're really limit testing their product, and they're spending a ton of time trying to put out a product that the consumer is really going to benefit from and get value from. I think I've spoken enough about them. I really hope that by the end of this video, you see the value in their product. And if you're interested, you can reach out to them and get your hands on one because they are awesome. And I have been extremely, extremely impressed. So throughout this video, I want to compare their cans to something else that maybe more people have information on. So the can that I'm going to be comparing this to is the Silencer Co. Scythe TI. This is the 30 cal. This is kind of what I would say is Silencer Co.'s big can right now. It's the titanium can, so it's light. They're kind of pitching it more towards the hunters, but they're also saying, you can throw this on any 30 cal and also put it through hard use and it's gonna hold up. A lot of the stuff I'm gonna be comparing today is going to be to this can because one, it's a can I have a lot of experience with, but I also think it's a very popular can on the market right now that a lot of guys are running. And so maybe you guys have it and can also compare it to this. So I'm gonna give you guys a quick little order of operations of how we're gonna do things in this video. And if you guys wanna bounce around in the chapters, feel free to do so, to just kind of skip to the point that you actually came to see. So the first thing that we're going to talk about is their low back pressure cans. Okay, I've got two of them here. They're the same can. It's their EKRON. I think that's how you pronounce it, EKRON. I have one in 30 cal, and then I have one in 5.56. After that, we're going to jump into another 30 cal can that I have from them. And this is kind of more of your standard can. It's not a low back pressure can, but it has some cool things about it that I think you guys will find really interesting. And lastly, one of the things I'm going to talk about is one of these muzzle devices that you can actually attach to the end of one of their cans. This is kind of some new tech that's been coming out over the past maybe year or so. Maybe I'm off. Maybe it's been out a lot longer than that. I know there's a couple companies doing it. I think theirs is very intriguing, and so I want to share it with you guys. I think this will be one of the big changes that you see in suppressors in the future, especially for long guns. All right, so when it comes to the EKRON, first and foremost, these cans have insane baffle systems on the inside. I've tried to get the camera to focus to be able to show you guys what it looks like on the inside, but there's just no good way of doing it. So instead, what I'm gonna do is either I'm gonna take pictures of it myself and just put it up here in the video, or I'm gonna find images online so you guys can see what the inside of this can looks like. There's so much design that went into this that is like totally over my head as to why they did this or why they did that, but when you see the inside, it's not gonna look like any can you've ever seen before. One of the ways that this is possible and that they're able to do this is these cans are 3D printed using grade 5 titanium. Titanium is obviously known for being extremely strong while also being extremely lightweight. Another benefit to titanium is its ability to dissipate heat. Now, I went to their shop and I saw how these things are made, and it's super cool. And one of the more interesting aspects that I didn't know, because I guess I have soft hands and I'm not that guy. So a lot of major cans on the market, like the Scythe TI, are obviously not 3D printed. So essentially they're taking pieces of metal, they're taking parts, and then they're welding those pieces together. And because I've never been a welder in my life and I don't understand welding, so maybe you guys can leave some comments below and explain how this works. When you weld two pieces of metal together, the weak points are the pieces of metal. The strong point is the weld itself. And so when you take a can that's 3D printed, essentially this is just one piece of welded metal. There are no parts in this can. The whole thing is one piece that is welded together. The way that works, and I'm gonna sound totally stupid here, but I'm explaining this to you guys, as someone who's like you. Essentially the machine is sprinkling little bits of titanium, and then the laser comes and melts that titanium and then adds another layer, until you get something like this, and the whole can is just one big piece of essentially welded metal. So in terms of a can that is lightweight because it's made of titanium, but also a can that is great as a hard use can because it is one solid piece of metal that is completely welded together, I think this is a great option for that. The 5.56 version weighs 9 ounces and the 30 cal version weighs 9.9 ounces. Now the 5.56 can is fully auto rated, but they do recommend that you have a triple prong muzzle device if you are gonna shoot it fully auto. Now I've put this can on a 10.3 Mark 18. I've put it on an 11.5. I've also put it on a 16-inch upper, and I've had zero issues with this can in terms of having to tune the gas system, the can overheating or having malfunctions or issues. I've had zero problems with this can, and I've been very impressed with them. Now, like I said, we're gonna be doing comparisons with the Silencer Co. Scythe TI. Okay, this is a great can too. I ran this can for about 6 months before I started running Stealth Additive Works, and I really enjoyed the can, had no issues with it. That being said, when I called the manufacturer of this can and talked to them about it, I was asking them questions like, hey, is this a hard use can? Like, is this something that I can be kind of rough with? It wasn't that they said no, but I could tell that there was a little bit of hesitancy over the phone. And that obviously that doesn't really mean anything, right? I'm probably talking to a sales rep who maybe doesn't know all the facts. But that being said, I have been a little bit more protective over it, or a little bit more fragile with it, just because I didn't want anything to happen to it, knowing that this was a can I spent a lot of money on and kind of wanted to baby a little bit. When I bought this, I thought it was gonna be the best can in the world. Again, these EKRONs, on the other hand, that has not been the case at all. Because I had a relationship with the guys up there and my goal was to kind of test these things, I didn't really care about taking care of them as much. I was a little bit more rough with them. This can in particular, the 30 cal can, was a can that I shot for about 3 months in preparation for the Kinetic comps team sniper competition that we did out here in Idaho. In terms of the rounds I shot in preparation for that competition, as well as the rounds I shot during the competition, I put about 1,200 rounds through this can in 3 months, which I'll let you guys decide if that's a lot or a little. Oftentimes, these rounds weren't just onesies and twosies, especially during the competition. I may have been shooting something like a 12 to 15 round string, and I was using 6.5 PRC out of this can. So in terms of the pressure that's going through this can, there was a decent amount, compared to like your 308. Now, one thing I think guys are gonna wanna know is like, how loud are these cans, or what do they sound like? I wish I had footage that I could include of me shooting these cans, and maybe I'll find some and just kind of put it in the video. The other option would be me posting the decibels that these produce. But again, I can't quantify a decibel. If I were to tell you guys, oh yeah, this can produces this decibel, it's like, I can't quantify that between me and you. What I will say though is I don't need to wear ear protection when I'm shooting either the 30 cal or the 5.56 version. So if you're somebody like me, that tells you enough that you need to know about how quiet the cans are. You don't need ear protection. Now again, that being said, I am not a doctor. I'm not an ear scientist, so don't take my word for it. Consult your doctor before shooting this without ear protection. But I don't shoot them with ear protection. Now I wanted to talk about their more traditional can that isn't one of these low back pressure cans. At the time that they sent me this can, it had a name, but I'm not gonna share that name with you because I think they changed the name and they're about to release the can that this one was kind of a prototype for. If you go on their Instagram page, you can actually see the SHILOH is what they're calling it, this new can that's gonna be released, I assume, in 2026. But this was kind of one of the prototypes for it. They ended up making a couple changes to strengthen it and kind of help with its ability to cool a little bit. But in my opinion, when I saw this can, this was kind of a direct response to something like the Stealth TI, which really, in my opinion, has controlled the market space for people who want a really lightweight suppressor. In my opinion, that's a lot of hunters. Guys who aren't expecting to shoot really long strings of fire. They're maybe only looking to take 1 or 2 shots. What's really important to them is that their gun doesn't weigh a ton in their pack. This can right here, because this isn't an official listed can on their website, I don't actually have the weight for it, but I know when we were at the shop, I brought my Silencer Co. suppressor up there because it was on one of my guns that we were gonna be shooting, and this can did come in lighter. This can is a 7.3 ounce can. This Stealth Additive Works is lighter, but I do not have the exact weight for you, and I cannot confirm or deny if the SHILOH, which is kind of the new and improved version of this, is also lighter. I would assume it's gonna be in the same weight class as that Scythe TI because that is the market that they're trying to target. Now, that being said, you might hear that and say, well, I want a suppressor that's light, that's hard use, but one that I can shoot more than 1 to 2 strings of fire. And again, I just want to preface, I'm not saying that you can only do 1 to 2 strings of fire with the Scythe TI. I'm not trying to dog on somebody else's product. I've done more in that can and it's been fine too. That being said, I've put this can through even more hell than these low back pressure cans. I think it's kind of interesting to share. So one of the things you'll see when you go on Stealth Additive Works website is they recommend that you use a 3-prong muzzle brake to connect the suppressor to. You know, one of these Silencer Co. ASR muzzle brakes. At the time that me and my partner were preparing to compete at the Kinetic comps, I was waiting for Silencer Co. to send me these suppressors, and I had been waiting like 6 weeks and I hadn't got anything yet. And so I basically just told my partner, hey man, we're just gonna have to direct thread this suppressor on and send it and see what happens. Now he was shooting a 6.5 Creedmoor out of his gun. I was a little worried for how the can would hold up just because that is something that they do recommend on their website. I mentioned before that in preparation and during the competition, we each shot about 1,200 rounds throughout that, 2 to 3 month process. During that time, this suppressor was direct thread mounted on his 6.5 Creedmoor and held up like a beast. This can has 0 signs of wear and tear on it. We had 0 issues with it the entire time. It just kind of proved what I was talking about before, where these 3D printed cans, where the whole can is just one big weld, really do hold up well and can be that kind of turnkey solution for a light can that's hard use and really gonna last you a long time. Now, because this isn't one of their low back pressure cans, it does run a little quieter. You may also be wondering why it has this real metallic look to it. They did offer to Cerakote it for me like they did the other 2 cans I have, but I kind of like that titanium look that it had to it. I just kind of like that old kind of dark ages look to the can. I told them not to do any Cerakote to it, and I think honestly it's one of my favorite looking cans out there. But if you guys are into the more Cerakote cans, they do offer a black Cerakote as well as a tan Cerakote that they can do on all of your cans. Now, one of the cool things that I like about this can, and it's an idea that I think they kind of got from something like the Scythe TI, is this option to put some sort of muzzle device on the end of the can. Now the Scythe TI offers this kind of omnidirectional, I think is what they call it, an omnidirectional brake, where essentially, as the gas is trying to escape the can, you have these ports in the front as well as these ports here on the sides to kind of push that gas omnidirectional. But I don't notice a major difference in, recoil control or anything of that matter. Now, Stealth Additive Works, they kind of took it a step farther and are now making muzzle devices that you can put on the end of cans. And you're starting to see a couple other companies do this, like Recoil X. But they're making these larger muzzle brakes that you can put on the end of your can just by threading them on. Now I don't have this tightened down all the way, so there might be a little gap there, but I'm planning on taking it off after this anyway. Now you might be sitting here wondering, what difference does adding something like this to the end of your can really make? So let's talk about the difference that adding something like this muzzle device can make. And then I also kind of want to compare it to something like this. This is an Area 419 Hellfire, which is, kind of like an industry standard, I would say, for muzzle devices. So first off, let's just talk weight, okay? Obviously, when you throw something like this onto your suppressor, it's gonna add some weight. The total weight of this is 1.3 ounces, okay? So you are getting a little bit extra weight, but that's significantly lighter than something like this. These muzzle brakes are also 3D printed, which allows Stealth Additive Works to do, again, some pretty unique, intricate designs inside of this muzzle brake, which allows a muzzle brake like this to slow and divert gases in a way that a muzzle brake like this cannot. So an interesting thing I'll just point out really quick, which is one of the first things I noticed, when you look at this Area 419, like you can see through this, right? You can see me coming through the other end of this muzzle brake. When I hold up this one on the other hand, you cannot see through this. I just say that to say there's a lot going on inside of this muzzle brake. It's not just your standard muzzle brake. So the guy who engineered this muzzle brake himself sent me a message that just kind of describes how this thing works compared to maybe something else. And so I'm just gonna read straight from his words because I think it's gonna make more sense than a guy like me who's pretty simple and explains things maybe more simply to understand it. But he does a good job. So this is what he says. So it's engineered specifically for use on suppressors. It takes advantages and techniques used in rocket engines to re-energize the slowed gases from the suppressor and converts them back into useful energy to reduce recoil and creating a slower release of the gases and reducing muzzle blast. So during the Kinetic comps, we had a day where we were basically all zeroing our rifles, getting our data. It was kind of the day before the competition started. And Stealth Additive Works came down to kind of showcase this muzzle brake on their SHILOH suppressor. They brought 6.5 Creedmoor and everyone kind of got a chance to shoot it. There was not a single person at this competition who was not impressed who got behind this gun. I mean, we had Navy SEALs, Green Berets, Recon Marines, civilian competitive teams. We had everybody there. All the guys who got a chance to get behind this gun had 1,000 questions to ask the guys at Stealth Additive Works because of the noticeable difference this made in firing a 6.5 Creedmoor, which in and of itself doesn't have a crazy amount of recoil, but it was still noticeable. I've really only had limited experience shooting the muzzle brake, so I'm not gonna sit here and pretend like this is the greatest thing ever made and you guys should immediately go and buy it right now. In fact, you can't buy it right now. They haven't released the day that they're going to release it. They also haven't released the price that it's going to be sitting at. But if you're interested in buying a product like this and using something like this and testing it out, go follow Stealth Additive Works on Instagram, hit that little notification bell so you can kind of stay updated for when they're releasing things. I think products like this are really going to take over in the shooting world, especially when you have companies like Stealth Additive Works that's really innovating and not just kind of recreating stuff that's been around for years and years and years. They're adding new designs, taking a new look at things, trying to pull from other engineering spaces and create products that kind of change the scene a little bit or shake things up a little bit. All of that being said, guys, I hope you got something out of this video. I hope you found maybe some answers to some questions you were looking for and that maybe some of these products, like these cans and these muzzle brakes piqued your interest. A couple times throughout this video, I mentioned Kinetic comps and competing at this sniper competition. If you guys are more interested in something like that, and you yourself have thought about competing, I would highly recommend it. Competing is really where you figure out who you truly are as a shooter and you can compare yourself to some of the other best shooters in the world. Every competition I've been to has been full of salt of the earth people. Everyone's willing to help each other out. Everyone's willing to give each other advice, even though in that moment they are competing against you. It's an awesome environment to be in. It's an awesome community. If you're interested in seeing what this competition was like and the hard use that these cans went through, I'd highly recommend checking out Eberly Stock's video. I'm gonna put the link for it in the description below. I think it was called Joes versus Pros, where basically Eberly Stock sent a team of just civilians out to compete at Kinetic comps, which was chock full of majority special operations sniper teams. So if you're interested, go check it out. It's an awesome video. Some friends over there at Eberly Stock. I really enjoyed it and I think you guys will too. I wanna thank you guys for watching. If you found any value in this video, hit the like button and subscribe. We're trying to hit 7,500 subscribers by the end of the month. I think it's a lofty goal, but the way that the channel's been performing recently, I think it's achievable. I really, really appreciate the support. And again, get out, go train, and I'll see you guys soon.